Welcome to Life School, Series 2, Bumps and Babies. As I record this today, I am currently 23 weeks and 4 days pregnant with my first baby, which I'm so excited to share I now know is a little girl. I'm still in the process of recording this series, and my plan was to start releasing episodes once I'd finished recording with all my wonderful guests. However, in light of the current global situation with coronavirus, recording for now is on hold. So I've decided to share with you the episodes I've recorded so far over the past couple of months. I know many of us are currently self-isolating at home with lots of time on our hands, so what better time to listen to your favourite podcasts or perhaps discover some new ones. As a first-time mum, pregnancy, birth and babies is a whole new world for me, and I personally want to educate myself as much as I can before my little one arrives. From positive birth stories, information on hypnobirthing, water births, C-sections, baby massage and more, I hope throughout this series I can shed some light on just some of the areas you may be worried about, or even just intrigued about. Thank you to all the incredible birth workers and women who have made this series possible so far, and thank you so much for listening. My guest for this episode is Rachael Bruford, a marathon runner, health coach, founder of Chasing Zest and new mum to the gorgeous baby Dylan. As an expecting mummy myself, it was so amazing to sit with Rachael and hear all about her super positive, natural birth experience. It was also a delight to have baby Dylan on the podcast with us too. So, without further ado, here's my conversation with the lovely Rachael. Happy listening! Rachael, welcome to Life School.
Thank you very much for having me.
And welcome Dylan.
Yeah.
I am so excited because this is the first baby I've had on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I believe Dylan's podcast debut as well.
It is, and my podcast debut.
Oh, I'm so honoured.
We are all in a very new situation here, so we'll see how it goes.
So if for anyone that's listening, the noises you can hear, other than Rachael and I, are baby Dylan, who is 5 months old.
Yeah, he's 5 months. So he's quite chatty, and yeah, he seems to like the table at the moment.
Well, he's being good as gold. So I just feel so sort of broody sitting here looking at you holding him.
Another 5 months you'll be.
not long. So Rachael, I want to start by talking about your pregnancy journey and your birth experience. So how did you find out you were pregnant? Were you trying? Let's start from the beginning.
So I was never really a particularly what I would call maternal person for a long time, and I never really thought that I wanted children, to be honest. I was happy going travelling and having my life and everything like that. And I think as I got older, you kind of think, okay, do I want to go down the road of having children or not? And we'd been married for over 4 years, and I don't know, as the years started going by, I found myself getting pulled more and more to the idea of actually having kids, and a lot of friends who were my age also started having babies, and I think seeing them and how their lives just seemed to be enriched by having children really made me think, okay, I think this is something that we would like to do. And so we spent the first kind of 6 months not trying, but not trying.
Sort of leaving it up to fate.
Just kind of seeing what had happened, what would happen. And nothing was happening. And I thought, if it's meant to be, it'll be. But then after those months, I thought, I kind of want to just to see if we can do something to kind of see if we're kind of on track with our timing and stuff like that, because my husband's a pilot, so he works away a lot. You have very little kind of, the window of opportunity is
so small,
really
anyway.
narrow, so much more narrow than I thought. So I started using ovulation tester kits, and the first couple of months I got like the little smiley face, but then nothing would happen. And then I remember November, I didn't get any smiley faces, and then it's weird because you go from not really wanting kids to then thinking, oh, is there something wrong with me? And my husband also had testicular cancer, and he'd had chemotherapy for that, so I really didn't know if we would be lucky enough or not. The following month, I did the ovulation test and got the smiley face again. And that was on New Year's Day last year. So New Year's Day 2019. And I actually have a picture of myself smiling with this smiley face on the tester. And I think it was, a very narrow window before it went to like a negative again. So about 2 weeks later, I did a test and that blue line appeared, and seriously, it was the most it's almost like bringing you down to earth, like, wow, this is really happening now, but also just feeling so much happiness that something has actually, it's worked.
It's quite surreal, isn't it? Because it's a moment that you sort of imagine, but then in reality it's, And
to be honest, I'd done a few tests before, and some of them, they're a little bit shadowy, and you think, oh, could that be? And you're holding it up to the light, and you're looking at different angles. When this line turned blue, there was no mistaking that it was definitely a positive. And I was just shocked, really, because I had a feeling that we wouldn't be able to have a baby. But yeah, just so happy. And then I went out to the mall, bought another test. And it was one of those that says pregnant or not pregnant. The digital ones. Yeah, and that worked. And still, my husband still didn't know at this point. So I bought him a card. I bought a packet of chia seeds, because apparently the baby was the size of a chia seed. And I stuck it in the card with a little onesie and the test. And I said, oh, I can't wait to meet you, Daddy, in September. And
that's amazing.
Presented it to him when I got home.
What was his reaction?
He cried. And then the next thing he said was, oh, we'll have to look at changing the car. Because,
straight to the practical side of things.
Into the practical side of things completely. And so that was the start of it all.
And how was the first sort of 12 weeks of your pregnancy?
I'm one of those annoyingly lucky people. I barely had any sickness at all. I never actually threw up. I was just quite tired. Yes. that also never goes away. But yeah, I spent a few days feeling nauseous. That was it.
Okay.
To the point where I would then doubt whether I was actually pregnant. I thought, oh, maybe all those tests I've been taking haven't, like, it's been a fluke or something's gone wrong.
Do you know what? That's music to my ears, because I've also been really lucky and not had any sickness. And for those first few weeks, I was Googling, is it normal to not have morning sickness? Because I was thinking, am I still pregnant?
Yes, exactly. And it's a really, I think
it's a strange, because usually it's, most people the other way around, they're really suffering with sickness.
And the rare occasions that I felt a little bit queasy, I'd be pleased. I'd be like, oh, I feel a bit sick today. That must be a good sign. And it was almost as if my lack of symptoms were more scary than feeling awful. Like I know some people really, really suffered, and not just for the first 12 weeks, for the entire pregnancy. And I remember when we finally got an appointment at 8 weeks, the initial one where you hear the heartbeat and you just see this little blob on the screen, and I remember thinking, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
There is a baby there. But then again, up until the 12-week scan, just being so worried that something would go wrong, because now I knew it was real. But just been thinking, oh no, I hope this is going to be okay, because I mean, sadly, a lot of women do experience a loss, and with me being what they call advanced maternal age,
which is ridiculous.
Yeah, I knew that the risks were supposedly higher, so it was quite a scary time, not feeling like I was pregnant. But eventually, I think after the 12 weeks, I kind of...
Did you relax a little bit?
Yeah, I relaxed a bit more. And as the pregnancy went on, then, I mean, once you start feeling movement and everything like that, then it's a lot more reassuring. So, yeah, lack of symptoms pretty much for the whole time.
Yeah, I can really relate to that, because I'm still... I mean, I'm almost 20 weeks now, so your symptoms are very different in the second trimester. They're not as prominent, sort of generally. But I still have days when I'm like, I'm still not really showing. I see other ladies at the same point as me, and they've got good bumps.
Yeah.
They look pregnant. And I'm like, oh, is everything okay?
Yeah.
Because I just look a bit fat.
Yeah.
I don't have a proper bump yet, but I had a scan on Monday and baby's fine. So you do, sometimes it can be the lack of symptoms that worry you just as much as everything else.
I remember going to like a pregnancy event, and I probably looked like the least pregnant person there. And people would ask, oh, how far along are you? And I'd be like, 20 weeks. They'd be like, oh, because I just looked bloated. Like I'd had like a really big dinner.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at the moment.
Yeah, and you wouldn't know to look at me unless I said, and then people were like, oh, yeah, I can see a little bit now.
Unless someone that really knows you well. But yeah, I think I've almost started to get bump envy as well, because I see some ladies and I'm just like, you have this beautiful pregnancy bump.
Well, believe me, by the end, I was all bump. So from the back, I looked the same. Then I'd turn around and it would be like this
there it is.
Like, as it like came into view and eclipsed whatever else on the light.
And leading up to baby Dylan's birth, what kind of preparation did you do? Did you have an idea of what sort of birth you might like?
Yeah, so I'm the kind of person who, like, I hate taking paracetamol or any kind of tablets or anything at all. So I really wanted to look into hypnobirthing and try and aim for a pain relief free natural birth. So I looked into hypnobirthing and did a hypnobirthing course, which was really
Can I ask who you did yours with?
I did it with Jasmine.
Okay, good. I'm doing it with Jasmine.
Yeah. So she's amazing. You're going to love the course. Even if it doesn't go the way that you kind of envisage, I think the things that you learn about birth and what's happening when you're having contractions, when the baby's coming down, like these are stuff that I didn't know. Like, okay, contraction is the muscle contracting, but what muscles and why are they doing that, and all this kind of stuff about, you always hear people talking about 10 centimeters dilated. Well, what's that? What does it mean? How long does it take to get there? How does that happen? It's obviously
he wants to make it clear that he is on this podcast.
Yes, he does. He is. He's like, yeah, you're talking about me. Yes. So the course was fantastic.
And how many weeks were you when you started the course?
I was around 28 weeks because Dylan was due in September, and I had to do the course that was before summer because they were having a summer break. So I was one of the kind of least pregnant people.
I'm going to be the same. Yeah.
And it's actually really interesting because the people from our course, we're all still in touch now. We have meetups and everything. There we go.
So you were 28 weeks when you did the hypnobirthing course with Jasmine.
Yeah, and so I met girls on there who were probably, we were all within about 2 months of each other. And we still meet up now with all our babies. And
that is so lovely.
Such a lovely group of ladies. And it was funny because, the first baby arrives and you're all like, oh, this
how
is
was
really
it
happening? Yeah, and you hear all their stories. And then, because then you all kind of you have your due dates, but then some people are early, some people are late. And so you have the odd surprise along the way. So Dylan was a bit of a surprise because he was about 2 weeks early.
Oh, amazing.
And then there were babies that were nearly 2 weeks late. So it's just really interesting to see like how all these babies who supposedly are due on these days come into the world when they're ready.
Yeah, exactly. The due date is just a sort of, like, I keep saying I'm due in July instead of the actual due date because who knows. And so Dylan was 2 weeks early.
Yeah.
How was your birthing experience?
I have to say, I wouldn't say I enjoyed it, but it went pretty much as I would have hoped. So it was super interesting. I'd been having a couple of like Braxton Hicks, so like the little cramps for a couple of days. And I thought, oh yeah, I'm starting to feel all these. And everyone was like, oh yeah, you've got a couple of weeks to go. This is just normal. It's your body getting ready. But I wonder now if I was actually in early labour. Because I remember we'd been doing something in the nursery, me and my husband, and he was due to fly to Paris that night on a trip. So it was kind of his last trip before his leave started. And I remember, I think I had a go at him about something. He wanted to start tidying something out, and I was like, why do you want to do that now? It's really bad timing. And I think now it's because somehow something in my body sensed that things were about to happen. So I went downstairs, and I remember my back was hurting, but that was nothing new by then. I laid on the sofa. It was the weirdest thing. Like, all of a sudden, I felt this pop, and I heard a pop, and I was like, oh, what was that? And then I realised that I had liquid, and I thought, I think my waters have just broken. But it wasn't like a massive gush or anything. Like, thankfully the sofa was all right, it survived. But I remember walking around the house trying to find my husband. I was like, Sandy! And I found him in the shower, and I was like, I think my waters have just broken, because he was getting ready to go to work. So the first thing we did was call our doula, Louise. And it's weird, because part of me was like, oh, well, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was just, I don't know, something else weird going on, which tends to happen by the end. But she was like, oh, well, yeah, we're going to have a baby by tomorrow. And that was like, oh, my goodness. And I did panic a little, because you can prepare, but once it starts happening, it's like, oh, my goodness.
This is it.
Yeah, this is it. And I remember having a bit of a teary moment, like, ooh, just the realization that everything we'd been planning for and thinking about for the past 9 months was about to happen, and that I was about to go through birth. But then I started bringing in all my hypnobirthing things, and we had dinner. I felt fine, just the odd kind of it was still just cramps by that point. It wasn't anything bad. We took the dogs for a walk, because you learn in hypnobirthing that if you stop, your labour might stall. Yeah. So going for a walk, bouncing on the ball, making sure you eat, because you're going to need energy, is all really, really important. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do all of this. And I have a picture of us out for a walk, and I've got this this face of something's about to happen. And I remember seeing the neighbour. She was like, oh, can't be long now. When are you due? And we were like, probably quite soon.
I'm in labour now, actually.
Yeah. I mean, of course, I didn't want to say that to her, but that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, sooner than you think.
Yeah. We'll be coming back here tomorrow with a baby.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then I remember we got home, I had a shower, things started getting more intense, and we were measuring the surges. So in hypnobirthing, contractions are called surges, because it's just a nicer term. Yeah. And it was weird with me, because they were quite close together to start with, but not too strong. But then they started getting stronger, but then they were really irregular. So I remember being in the shower, and I had 3, and they stopped me. I had to lean against the wall and have the water on my back. My husband was downstairs. I don't know what he was doing. He went into right, we've got to clean up, we've got to do this.
And I assume he had to cancel his trip.
Yeah, he called work. They were brilliant.
Yeah.
They were like, okay, you've got emergency leave, and then it goes into your actual leave that you've booked. So he had 3 weeks off, which was perfect. We had to sort the dogs out, because, it was a Thursday night. It was 4:20 in the afternoon when my waters broke. So luckily the neighbours were like, okay, we'll come and walk them and look after them and everything. So all these things that you're kind of like, oh, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. Oh, car seat, we've got to get the car seat in the car properly and make sure we've got all our bags ready. And I had prepared. But because my husband needed all his passport and stuff for work, he had to make sure he took all that out, put it in the bag and everything. And then I laboured for about 8.5 hours at home. So I had my hypnobirthing tracks on, I had LED candles, I had just really calm, nice environment. I used the ball. I had an amazing moment with one of my dogs, the girl dog. She must have sensed that something was happening. So I was laying on the floor, on the rug, And I had like cushions all around my front because I would grab them at various different stages. And she came and laid like flat against my back, so we were back to back, and put loads of pressure on my back. And that really eased the kind of...
She must have
pain.
known.
I think she knew. And normally she's a little bit annoying, so she'll be licking the whole time or barking, and she was just silent, and she was just leaning right against me, and it was really nice just to have like her. She just seemed to be so in tune. It was amazing, and I think now her and Dylan have some kind of a special bond. Because he definitely reacts more to her than our other dog, who was very good but kind of kept his distance. So yeah, that was an amazing moment.
And how was the pain during these 8 hours?
It's weird because you kind of forget. It was fine, probably for about the first 5 hours. So till about 9 o'clock, 9:30, and then it started a little bit more. But I had like the breathing, and I was doing all of that, and I was listening to the affirmations, which was so helpful. And we were still in touch with Louise, the doula. But my aim was to stay at home for as long as possible, because I didn't want to suddenly find myself in a hospital environment. But I also knew that I didn't want to leave it too late. It was a Thursday evening, and I thought the roads are going to be quite busy. But what I decided in my head was I would wait until midnight if I could. So I think I look back now at all the messages. I think it was around 11 p.m. where I really started to feel it a lot. And as I say, my surgeries were so weird because they say you wait till they're 5 minutes apart, last a minute for an hour. Well, mine were, there'd be 8 minutes, then there'd be 5 minutes, then there'd be 3 minutes.
So quite sporadic.
Yeah, and they wouldn't last a minute. Sometimes they'd only last 30 seconds, but they would be super intense. Like I wouldn't be able to talk through them. And I remember it eventually got to the point where they were just 3 minutes apart. So they went from all over the place to 3 minutes. And I remember as soon as I had recovered from one, another one would start, and I'd be like, oh no, there's another one coming. And at this point, my doula had arrived.
The lovely Louise Atkinson.
Lovely Louise. Oh, she was amazing. And she kind of timed me as well, and we were like, yeah, we need to go to hospital now because things are happening quite quickly. So it was about just gone midnight when we left, and that car journey was...
So where do you live, and which hospital were you going to?
So we live in Falcon City,
okay.
Up near, like beyond Arabian Ranches, and we were at City Hospital.
Okay.
So I knew the car journey is about 20 minutes, and of course it was midnight on a Friday morning, so the traffic was fine. I didn't have that to worry about, but yeah, it was not pleasant at all because it felt like it lasted a long time being in the car. And I was in the back just to give myself a bit more room. But yeah, I mean, for me, I wanted to move around and I wanted to be on all fours. And when you're in a car, you really are restricted. And I remember having my hands on the roof at one point, just trying to do anything to get comfortable. And then we parked, and then I had another surge whilst we were getting out of the car. And then we got into the like emergency, because you have to go to the emergency to check in. And they tried putting me in a wheelchair. I was like, I don't want a wheelchair. I want to be able to move. They're like, no, you've got to go in a wheelchair. So I was sat in this wheelchair, and I was just, in the end, I was like, no, get me out of this. And I just got up, and because then I could lean against the wall and do all that kind of stuff. And then, we got to the labour ward, and they wanted to check me for 40 minutes. I was like, I don't think I can lie still for 40 minutes. Like,
what do you mean check you for 40 minutes?
So like the monitoring. So you know how they put on like the monitoring belt? And in hypnobirthing, you learn quite a bit about how that's not always necessary, and it can actually impede you because you hear all the noises, you start thinking about all the machines.
And they're making you sit still as well.
And I could not, like, there was no way I could just lay there for 40 minutes, not a chance. And I think because I did get to hospital fairly late, they maybe didn't realise that I was nearing, like, the end. Like, I hadn't just started, I'd been at home for 8 hours after my waters had broken, and they were saying, oh, why did you wait so long? It's like, because I wanted to be at home. So I managed to negotiate down to 5 minutes of monitoring, and then they were like, right, yes, we've got a room ready for you now. And I think by then it became clear that things were about to happen. And another thing, my normal doctor, who I'd had all my appointments with, wasn't there, because she was stranded in her home country.
Okay.
She'd gone to get her passport changed, and there'd been a delay. So I had to have a doctor who I'd never met before, who was amazing, really good. But again, it's just one of those things that you never really planned for. And I'd wanted a water birth, and they told me that the place wasn't available, the pool wasn't available. So we said, oh, can we go next? No, there's more people waiting. So I didn't get that, but apart from that, I have to say, like, once we got to the hospital, within an hour and a half, he had arrived.
Wow.
So I managed an hour and a half, managed no pain relief, not even gas and air. I still don't know how I did it.
What sort of position were you in?
I spent most of it actually stood up, because at one point apparently his head was hitting the rim of my pelvis. So the doctor, really good that she suggested this, she had my husband stand behind me and we kind of swayed, and it just helped get him into the proper position. Then I tried being on all fours with my hands on the rail of the bed. But the funny thing was I started getting cramp in my thigh. I was like, I've got cramp! Like there isn't anything else going on. And so in the end I ended up on my side with my foot up on one of the, not stirrupy things, but the things that you would rest your legs on. And then we started the pushing phase. Now that was the only bit that was different to hypnobirthing, because in hypnobirthing you're meant to think of a what is it called?
A flower opening
rose. Yes, the opening rose. There wasn't an opening rose. It was literally like, I'm doing what I'm told and I'm pushing and I'm, it's time for this baby to come out. And I think you go into such a place.
Yeah.
I didn't even remember about an opening rose by that point. It was literally like I had my husband holding one hand, Louise holding the other hand, and then they were all counting down from 10 for me to push, which was really hard because at first I was pushing wrong. I was pushing and putting all my energy out of my mouth because I was making quite a bit of noise, and I could actually feel him descending and then going back up again, which they said. So,
but this does happen as well, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That is part of because if they come out super quickly, then that's more. That could be more damage for you. So they do actually sort of tend to come out slowly, don't they?
Slowly is always best. And I remember them saying they could see hair, and I was like, "Oh, what colour is it?" They're like, "It's dark hair."
So you were with it enough to answer back. And
yeah. And it was funny because the doctor said something like, normally I would advise patients to reach down and touch the baby's head. But maybe you don't want to do that. And of course, then I was like, well, yeah, I do actually, So the next surge I had, I actually reached down and felt his head as it was.
Wow.
Which, if you'd told me that before, I'd have been like, oh, God, no. But
so by this point, are you in pain, or is it just you're so close to the end that something else takes over?
It's really weird. Like, it is like an out-of-body experience. I've heard it said before, and now I understand. It becomes very primal. And although I was aware that I was in pain, something within me just kicked in. And I remember, because then the head comes out, and then you have to wait for another with me it was anyway, and then his shoulders were out, and then I have to wait again. So, you've got a baby like
half in, half out.
Half in, half out, which sounds terrifying, but actually I just remember feeling like I wanted to move away from it, and I remember trying to like move up the bed almost, not that it would have done any good, but then I remember saying, if I push one more time, will the baby, because we didn't know whether we were having a boy or a girl.
Oh, you left it as a surprise.
So it's always it. Will it be out? And they were like, yes. And that was enough for me. I thought, okay, just one more, and then he or she will arrive. And then you just feel this, it's like a big relief of everything's out. And then all of a sudden you've got this baby just on your chest, and it's amazing. And he was crying straight away,
which is what you want.
Yeah, we knew, like, okay, that's good. And the most hilarious thing was, obviously we didn't know whether it was a he or a she, and we forgot to check. So we were there for probably like 1 or 2 minutes, and then I was like, what is it? And we had to look under the towel to find out, and I was like, it's a boy.
Did you have any inclination, like mother's instinct, as to what you were having?
Yeah, I did have a feeling it was a boy.
You did, okay.
And a lot of people said that based by my bump and the fact that I was just a ginormous walk-in bump, people said, I bet it's a boy, and you never know whether to believe these stories. Only 2 people told me, I think you're having a girl. But yeah, I think we were just so happy to have a baby who was obviously healthy because he was crying.
Of course.
And just the moment of just them being there, and you just feel this sense of protection. It didn't matter like whether they were a boy or a girl. He was here and healthy, and that was it. And it was only after a little while, once the initial kind of, your brain starts working a little bit more, and you think, oh, hang on, we don't actually know if it's a boy or a girl yet. So we had to have a little check under the towel, and then we were like, it's Dylan, because we had 2 names.
So you had names already planned?
Yeah, so we had a boy name and a girl name. So
and how was that first hour?
It was incredible. Like, the sadness for me was that he didn't latch on straight away, which was like what I was always imagining. They do the crawl, they latch on, they have their first feed. He didn't. But the skin to skin was amazing. I remember a lady in the room asking me if I wanted toast and a cup of tea. I was like, I think I do. Like, it was really random.
You probably hadn't eaten in goodness knows how many hours.
So my labour was 10 hours in total.
Which actually is...
It's quite short.
It's quite short, isn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And so you had a doula, Louise, who I interviewed just last week for the podcast. I'm also planning on having a doula. How was that experience for you, and how do you think it helped your birth?
Well, for me, the reason to have a doula at first was because, obviously, with my husband being a pilot, I knew I couldn't guarantee him
that he'd be there,
which terrified me. And so I wanted to have somebody who at least I'd met before, who knew what was going on. And I thought, even if my husband ends up being there, which luckily he was, at least there's somebody else there to advocate for us. You don't know how your husband's going to be when you're in labour. I mean, mine was wonderful, but it could have, gone the other way. So I looked into having a doula, and I met a couple who I didn't feel a connection with. And when I met Louise, straight away I was like, this person
she is so lovely.
Yeah, exactly. And she's so passionate about women having the birth that they want, and kind of advocating for themselves. And she was also really knowledgeable, and I think she's got quite a lot of experience too. So it was good to have somebody who was going to be on our side. And what I really found good when I was actually in labour, when she knows it's it's kind of up to you when you want her to come and join you. So
Yeah.
she'd said, oh, I can come now, or wait a bit until later, and I thought, we'll wait a bit until things get going a bit more, and we'll just chill out at home. And when she came, I actually felt quite sorry for her, because she came all the way to our house, and like within a couple of minutes we were leaving to go to the hospital. I thought, oh, she's come all this way and now we're just going to the hospital. But it was good, because there were moments where I was a little bit scared, even though I knew what was happening and why, and I'd really informed myself on the whole process. It's still like your body is doing things that you've not experienced before, and it is scary. And I remember a couple of times just saying to her, oh, I'm a bit scared now. And she would say, no, it's all completely normal. And it's just the reassurance.
The reassurance from someone who actually knows. Because your husband can say everything's okay, but it's almost like, well, how do you know? You've never done this before.
You've no idea, and you've not seen it happen before. So you could be saying everything's okay, and it might not be. So having somebody there to say that, or I remember a couple of times I would just look at her and she'd just give me like a reassuring nod, and I'd think, okay, well, we're doing good. And yeah, just she took a couple of pictures immediately afterwards, which we hadn't thought about. So I have like pictures from when he's just a couple of minutes old, just capturing. I mean, they're probably the most graphic images.
Yeah, but even if they're just for you.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, none of us look our best, but just the emotion, and you can just see there's something glowing.
Yeah.
Like my husband said, when Dylan was born, I just started glowing.
Wow.
So even though I looked a state, and I'm so glad that Louise was there to take those pictures, because we wouldn't have.
Yeah, completely. That's the last thing on your mind.
Yeah, exactly. And also, something else here in particular was when we got to the hospital, my husband had to go down to reception to sort out all the insurance stuff. So if Louise hadn't have been there, I would have been on my own.
That is such a good point, actually, because in the UK you wouldn't sort of think about that. But being here, there's this whole sort of admin side to it. So to have that person there that is not going to leave your side at any point.
And who can say, because there was another doctor who could have been there, who I'd met previously in the week and hadn't got on with particularly well. I think we had differences in opinion. And Louise was able to say, oh, if there's another doctor available, I think it would be better for her to have this doctor deliver the baby. Which, again, I was really grateful for, because I wasn't in a position to say at that point. So, yeah, really, really worth having her. And also the support afterwards. I think a lot of the time we think about the birth and the pregnancy, and then we kind of forget about the days and the weeks and months afterwards. And just having somebody who comes to your house and checks in on you, makes sure you're okay, sees how you're getting on, gives you any further advice.
Can help with breastfeeding.
Yeah, exactly. And that was something that I did need a lot of help with. And she also did a baby massage class, which we went to as well, which has been really good. So yeah, I would definitely, if I was to have another, I would definitely use Louise again.
It's top of my priority list, and I'm actually looking to hire Nikki, Louise's partner.
Yes, they kind
Louise
of work
together, in July, like a lot of people are. Because I mean, I love Louise as well, and when I met Nikki, I just thought, I can imagine you being there and being that extra support. Because my mum will come out here, but she might not make it in time for the birth, because she only gets a certain amount of holiday.
Exactly.
So she might make it, she wants the majority of her holiday to be when baby's here, not just me sitting around on a sofa waiting to go into labour. So to have that other person there that knows what's going on.
And another thing is that they also know when, they're not going to come in and take over and start barking orders what to do and make your husband feel like he is kind of redundant. They kind of have that presence where they're there, but if you need them, they'll kind of step in. If not, they'll just stay back. And as I say, for me, it was reassuring looks. It was checking on me before we went to the hospital, when my waters broke, we were constantly messaging each other, and she was reassuring me everything's fine, everything's normal. I was saying, well, I've got this, is this right? She was like, yep, your body's doing exactly what it needs to do.
It's invaluable.
Yeah, just, I think, especially with birth as well, fear can really make things a lot more problematic. So the more, it sounds weird, the more relaxed you are, and the more you understand what's going on, then hopefully, I mean, a lot of other things come into play, but you should have a better experience, because your body is just going to go with the flow rather than you being, when you're scared, you seize up. Yeah, and that's not what you want in labour.
And how have the past 5 months been?
Well, a bit like a whirlwind, I have to say. It's had the most incredible highs, seeing him just grow and how he's developed, and getting the first smiles, and now the laughter and the giggles. But it's also had like some really some of the most down moments I've ever had. So the first couple of weeks were particularly challenging, because we found it really hard with feeding. So he lost a lot of weight in the first week, and it's normal for babies to lose up to 10%, but he lost over half a kilo. And yeah, our first week at home, we had 6 different appointments over the 7 days of the week. So we didn't really get a chance to relax at home very much. It was always like, okay, go and get weighed, have a look at this. So that's been definitely the hardest bit. But I feel like, I keep saying this, but I feel like we're finally starting to turn a corner, and I'm coming out of the mist of newborn life, and he's starting to sleep a little bit better at night.
And did you reach out for some support?
Yes,
for help with your breastfeeding? Okay, good.
A lot. So we were at Health Bay quite a lot, so they have midwives and lactation consultants there. We saw Dr. Delphine, who is really good as well, Louise, and ultimately now we're doing like a combination of breast milk and formula, which is not how I wanted it to be. I thought, oh, I'm going to breastfeed for as long as possible, but now he's kind of, because he had a tongue tie, so he had to have that snipped as well. Oh yeah, we're talking about the bad times, aren't we? So he's got far too used to the bottle now, which means he completely rejects me when I try and feed him, and that is just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
To the point now where I don't want to try again, because it just upsets me so much, and it upsets him. So now I'm pumping, which is horrible, and giving him milk in a bottle and then topping up with formula.
But ultimately, you just want him to obviously be fed and be healthy, don't you?
Exactly, and he's such a happy boy. Like, I got back onto exclusively breastfeeding before Christmas, and we managed 3 weeks, and then we realised he'd gone really skinny again, and he was constantly crying through the day, and he'd lost weight again. So, I mean, I think it was probably like selfish of me to try and continue because I wanted to do it when he was obviously not getting all the nourishment he needed, and I needed to just get over myself. And like with birth, they say you can prepare all you want, but things will happen how they happen.
Exactly.
And I was lucky that I pretty much got what I wanted, but then with the feeding, I have to apply the same thing.
Yeah.
And now we're doing all right.
I mean, he's such a healthy, happy baby.
He is, yeah.
You're doing an amazing job.
Yeah.
And I want to talk a bit about fitness, because I know that is such a huge part of your life.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about how that was during your pregnancy and post-birth as well.
So yeah, I've always been, the last couple of years I've been a really keen runner. So I've done like ultramarathons, shorter events. And when I found out I was pregnant, I'd actually qualified for Boston Marathon, which was in April. So I was around 4 months pregnant at the time. And I decided that I would run Boston while I was pregnant. And that's obviously something that is very unique to each individual. Like, not everybody would be able to do that, but because for me marathon running was not easy, but it was something I did regularly, so my body was really used to it, and I'd qualified the year before, and who knows when I'll qualify again now, because you have to get under a certain time, and I decided that I would run it still, but I would obviously just take it easy, soak up the atmosphere because it's an iconic race, and just obviously if I felt any pain or anything that was, I'm used to now the feeling of just being fatigued from running, or if something's not right, and I would have stopped completely if I'd felt anything wrong. But we managed to run Boston Marathon when he was just 4 months. No, I've lost what I'm saying.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So it was really good, and it just kind of showed me again the strength of because Boston also, it's a marathon. Pardon you. It's got a lot of history with women not being allowed to run, and women who entered and then ran, and they tried to throw them out of the race because they didn't think women should be running marathons. And I think then to go and do it pregnant, which there were a couple of us there who were pregnant, again, it's just showing people that we're a lot stronger than history has given us credit for. And for me, oh no, what's the matter? Hey. Is that better? For me, I just wanted to have something that he could look back, well, obviously not look back on because he's not going to remember it, but just to show him that you can do what you put your mind to. It's not necessarily about what people say you can or can't do. If you go about things in the right way, you can achieve a lot more than people would give you credit for.
Did you face any backlash from people?
Not backlash as such. I had people telling me they didn't think I should run it, but funnily enough, the people who said I didn't think I should do it, they were men, so never been pregnant, never gonna be pregnant, and non-runners. So
what do you know?
Your opinion is irrelevant.
Yeah, literally.
Whereas all the kind of women runners who I knew were like, oh yeah, go for it. It sounds like, they knew that I'm not going to do anything to put him at risk at all. But just to go and do it. And I really enjoyed it because I didn't have to worry about what pace I was running. I had walk breaks. I didn't look pregnant, so people probably thought, well, what's this waddly person doing? But yeah, it was just really nice. The only thing was I couldn't celebrate properly afterwards. Yeah,
exactly. No popping champagne bottles for you. But what an achievement. And did you work out throughout your entire pregnancy?
I did, yeah. I kept running. I did a half marathon, and I did a lot of running, and then gradually as I got more and more pregnant, and obviously the summer started kicking in as well, so I started doing more walking. So I would run 600 meters, waddle 600 meters, walk 400, and I would do that, and then gradually it just became walking. And I did also Pilates as well, which was really helpful. So I do I still do it because it's pre and postnatal Pilates at Optimal Fitness, and Hannah, who runs it, she is a women's health physio, so she has a really good understanding of all the things that happen during pregnancy and birth and afterwards. She knows a lot about the pelvic floor, which is really important, and she's also got 3 children, so she knows everything, and when you're doing the exercises, she explains again why you're doing them, how it helps and everything. And the best thing is you can bring a baby with you as well.
Oh, wow.
So I probably started going about a year ago.
This is in Studio City, isn't it?
Yeah. I started going about a year ago when I was pregnant, and now I bring him along. So it's really good because if you do have a husband who's away or at work, you don't have to worry about who's going to look after your child. You just bring them along, and we've all had moments where the babies have screamed hysterically. And,
as they do.
Yeah, as it happens. But yeah, he actually really likes it because it's, you know, somewhere different for him.
And sociable.
Yeah, he sees other babies.
And obviously you were a runner before, and so for someone like myself who isn't, going off and running a marathon, not a good idea.
No.
So for someone like you, there is no need to suddenly change everything you do because your body is used to this, it's conditioned to this.
Yeah.
And I'm also assuming you spoke to your doctors along the way to make sure everything was okay.
Yeah, and I also, as soon as I found out, like, I was supposed to be doing Dubai Marathon as a training run, but that was like a week after I found out, and I thought, you know, first trimester, I'm not going to...
Let's not risk it.
Yeah, I'm not going to risk it. So I just helped to pace people. And when I did Boston, it was good because I was, you know, I wasn't really showing, so I didn't have a great big bump to cart around, but I was past the kind of the more risky stage. So for me, it was kind of perfect timing. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't recommend it to just anyone. And
then post Dylan, how has it been getting back into your fitness?
I tell you, it's really humbling. And I have a new understanding now of, I mean, we all have to get into it at some point, but I have such a appreciation for women who maybe haven't been into fitness before, and then they have a baby and they think, oh, you know, I need to start doing something, and how hard it must be because it is weird. Like, first of all, your body feels different, especially in the kind of earlier stages. And then secondly, you know, if you're used to being able to run at a certain pace, that goes out the window once you've had a baby. You know, you're maybe carrying extra weight. Your whole system is just, it's been through such a change that then you're running for not a very long amount of time and you think, oh, I'm absolutely exhausted. And then you look at your watch and you're running lots slower than you previously were. And that's quite hard to deal with mentally. But then again, it's also exciting because your body's just been through this amazing thing and you have to respect it and get back into things slowly. Otherwise, you're going to run into problems as well. So this past weekend I ran my first half marathon after having him.
Congratulations.
Which was, oh my goodness, it was tough, and mentally it was tough because I kind of was like, oh, you know, I just want to stop and see Dylan because I knew he was supporting. And I managed it in just under 2 hours, which was almost 20 minutes slower than the previous year when I was 7 weeks pregnant.
Not bad though, Rachel. Not bad.
It was still okay, but you know, you can't help but compare. And it's not just the time, it's how you feel when you're running. Yeah. And I was just from the start, I was just absolutely like, oh, this is going to be hard. But I mean, that's something now that I can base going forwards and see how I can improve upon that. And I've entered a marathon for December.
Wow.
So we'll see how that goes.
Whereabouts?
Valencia.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
And Dylan's going to come as well. So we're going to have a little holiday out of it. And he'll be over 1 then, so that'll be good.
He can cheer you on.
Yeah. And I tell you, it's lovely seeing them by the side. Because the half marathon at the weekend, he was there by the side of the road. And I really wanted to stop because it was the halfway mark, right opposite our hotel, and I was like, oh, I could just stop now. But I thought, no, because then I'm showing him that you can give up, and I'm like, no. Even though he won't remember, I was like, no, I've got to keep going, I can't show him.
It's the principle.
Yeah.
No, it's incredible, the fact that you've just achieved that, 5 months. It really is something.
It's still an ongoing journey.
Of course.
I mean, I still don't feel normal, but then do we ever feel normal again? I don't know. Yeah, and also finding the time to go out and train now is really hard. And sometimes I don't have the energy. I'm just like, oh, I'd rather just sit in, watch TV
with the bubba.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about chasing Zest.
My first baby. So yeah, chasing Zest, my first baby. So it started about 2.5 years ago. And it started as like a website that's about the outdoors and being active. And the name Chasing Zest, I created it because Zest is like an energy. It's what makes us feel alive. It's it's got a lot of kind of healthy connotations, but you can't just sit around and expect to feel this. You have to go out and find it, hence the name Chasing Zest. And so it started as like an outdoors type digital platform, and I also have like guest posts such as the Lighthouse Arabia. They write more kind of well-being and mental health posts. I have people who write about hiking and all the kind of slightly more extreme stuff that I don't do, and it's evolved a lot over the last couple of years. So I was working on it and freelance writing as well, and I kind of wanted a bit more of a purpose, to feel like I was having some kind of a positive influence on people's lives, because since I'd left teaching I felt that was kind of missing a little bit. So I started training to become a health coach, and bringing Chasing Zest and the health coaching together, which is what I'm now doing, it's like the perfect combination, because it's helping people to meet their health and wellness goals, if they're facing challenges, if they're feeling stuck. And the website Chasing Zest is also a reflection of that. So it's going to have more kind of health coaching style articles written by me, but we're also still keeping the outdoors, because that's such a big part of, kind of getting the most out of life and pushing your limits and doing things that you didn't think you were capable of. So it's all linked in together on one platform, and it's going to have all my online courses and stuff on there as well, which I'm working on now, because I qualified as a health coach in July and then had Dylan in September. So
congratulations.
Thank you, but it's obviously meant that I've kind of had to put things on hold a little bit, which has been fine. And I think now, as a new mum, I have that appreciation of once again feeling a little bit like you're not trapped, that's not the right word, but like there are certain limits, and that can sometimes have a bit of an effect on you. So I think all of us in our lives, we have our highs and our lows, and sometimes we get in a bit of a rut, which I was maybe 4 years ago, and then I managed to, before I had Dylan, I would say I was the healthiest and the fittest I'd been. And now after having a baby, you have that, you've got a couple of kilos heavier than you were, you feel a little bit differently about your body, you have hormones going haywire, you don't have the time to necessarily prepare loads of nutritious food. So for me, I was ordering takeaways.
Yeah, which is so easy here as well.
And you're so tired, you just, sleep deprivation as well, all of these things. So for me personally, I also feel like I'm kind of starting again. And it's given me an appreciation of mums and how amazing they are, just to keep going, to try and get into fitness. Mums of more than one child, I don't know how they do it. So Chasing Zest now with the health coaching is bringing all those things together and helping mainly ladies who feel like they're just a bit stuck, and they need to be kind of take steps that are going to lead to an eventual transformation. So it's looking at really short-term goals and then helping them towards that, being supportive, making suggestions of things they can do that keep things easy and simple, but are going to make little things adding up to a big change in the end.
And so ladies can have, or men, they can have private sessions with you as well.
So I do one-on-one clients, and then I'm going to be running group coaching, and also to do online courses as well. So
coming soon.
Yes, coming soon. And I do workshops too. And also a lot of, I've got quite a lot of freebies on the website that people can use as well, because it's not accessible to everyone. So it's nice to just feel like, again, I've kind of rediscovered my purpose, which I was searching for so long. And now being a mum as well, I mean, it has
and they
its
go
challenges,
so beautifully hand in hand as well.
Really
They're really connected, aren't they? What you're doing, and obviously being a mum to Dylan.
Yeah, and as I say, I mean, it does have its challenges. Like at the moment, I'm working when he's napping, which is quite hard, because as soon as you sit down to do something, you know, you hear a bit of noise upstairs and you're like, oh, damn.
Well, I'm in awe, because I hope that I'm going to be a mum like you, where I still agree to do things and I'm going to bring the baby with me, but you also don't know how you're going to be. So the fact that, you know, you've come here today, you're super relaxed, I just think, I really hope I can be that way, because I think a lot of people don't leave the house for a year.
You know, and for me, I was kind of forced into it, because with a husband who is away a lot, if I didn't go out, then I would be sat by myself for maybe 6 days at home, staring at the walls, going mad. So from very early on, I wanted to be able to go outside by myself. Like, it still terrifies me at times. I'm like, oh gosh, what if he starts crying? You know, today I was like, oh, you know, what if he starts his teething thing again and he's like inconsolable? But I think one of the things you quickly learn is people who are already mothers understand, and everybody has been in the same boat. And you do have your bad times, but I always call him my PA now. So when I'm out and about, like the other day I was getting a load of printing done, and we went to the printers and people were kind of looking at him and staring and like, oh, look at that lady with her baby. And he goes everywhere with me. And I think it's been really good for him, because he's quite a sociable little boy. And he's good in new situations most of the time.
And the more you do it, the more confident you get, I imagine, as
exactly,
well.
And it just becomes one of those things where, because we don't have any help at all at the moment, that might change maybe in the future, but me and him are kind of a package now. Like, so obviously if I had a one-on-one client, I would schedule that time so that his dad was with Dylan, because I need to give everything to that person. Same if we're in a group. But most of the time, for the kind of day-to-day stuff, he can come with me. Like, I like having my little sidekick with me. I always, he's my PA. So like, even when I'm like writing emails, doing stuff on the website, he's like in the corner, and I'm like, what do you think to this, Dylan? What should we do?
I envisage that that's what I'm going to be like. But again, you just don't know, do you?
To be honest, I thought I would be back at work by December/January time. So like when he was 3 months old, and by December I was like, you know what, I need more time. And I'm very lucky that I was able just to take a couple more months. Now I feel like I'm properly ready to get out there. And that's the thing as well with health coaching. I need to be able to give to another person. If I'm feeling depleted, I'm not going to be effective at doing that. So now I feel like, yes, I wouldn't say myself again, because I think that has changed. I'm not going to be who I was before Dylan. So I have to see who I am now, and it's like a thing that you're continuously discovering. But I would like to think that I'm actually a better person now, if slightly more bedraggled, tired.
You look amazing. Rachel, I want to ask you, for all the mums to be listening, what are your top 3 items, services or experiences you would recommend they invest in?
Wow, I mean, I think I've mentioned them already. So definitely the hypnobirthing with Love Birthing, just to be informed of what's going on with your body, how to speak with doctors, how to ask questions and kind of interpret the answers. There's a lot that I didn't realise about birth, and I think if I had just stuck to the antenatal classes at the hospitals, I did 2, I still wouldn't have been informed, because there's so much to cover. So doing a hypnobirthing course, it's not just sitting there meditating, it's so much more than that. It's getting knowledge, learning breathing techniques. Everything that I did on that course helped me, and even if your birth doesn't go how you would want, it's learning to accept it and try and enjoy the experience as much as you can. Like, it's a massive moment in your life, and I think women deserve to have a positive experience, and doing that course really helped, because I went into it with my eyes open. You never know what to fully expect, but I didn't at any time feel like I was blindly going through this experience. I felt like I was in control most of the time, and that I knew what was happening, so I would definitely recommend that. And then in terms of being active, the Pilates classes at Optimal Fitness, they're amazing. Hannah really knows what she's talking about, and just learning things like what your pelvic floor is, what it does, how it changes during pregnancy and childbirth, what happens when it goes wrong, how it can be underactive or overactive. Things like that are so important. And again, even now with a baby, things are still going on in your body that you need to be like addressing, like you're constantly hunched over, and just learning things that you can do after birth that are safe, that can help you with recovery. I would definitely recommend some kind of Pilates by a properly qualified women's health PT, definitely. And then the third thing would be, if you're able to invest in a doula. As I've said, like just the reassurance, having somebody there. I was lucky in a way that I didn't need Louise too much, but I'll be forever grateful that she was there. If I had had a more complicated birth and things had popped up, then, I mean, you don't want that to happen, but having her there would have made things a lot easier, and she would have had all her experience to draw upon and help us out. And also, you never know how things are going to go. Maybe if you have to have a C-section or you're ill afterwards, your poor husband's going to be left, with the baby, but also worrying about you. Having that other person there who knows and has been in maybe similar situations, it would be just, I think, well worth what you would pay. So if you can budget for it, I would advise all mums-to-be to try and look into getting a doula, especially in Dubai, where we don't really have close family living with us.
Exactly. Someone said to me the other day, think about what you spent on your wedding. Mm-hmm. This is an investment for one of the biggest days of your life. So look at it that way. Exactly. And actually, they are very affordable. Mm-hmm. They're not, completely ridiculously overpriced. They're probably very underpaid, in fact. Yeah. And actually, if you think about the money you spend on clothes and things that you probably don't necessarily need. For me, I'm very much prioritizing, okay, this is something I want to work towards and work for and budget for over various different, a fancy crib or this and that, because that to me is really important.
Exactly. And that's what we did. So we got our crib second hand, so we saved loads of money on that. And if you think that pregnancy generally, they say 40 weeks, the money you would pay for a doula, divide that by 40 per week, that is like, it puts it into perspective.
Completely. And having a positive experience, regardless of how your birth goes, is really going to help you, I think, with those first few weeks as well, and that recovery and that mental place of, regardless of how it went, being able to come out of it feeling really positive can only be a good thing.
I think it does help a lot to know that you've done what you can, and whatever has happened, you've accepted it. I think it's essential to mental health after the baby is born as well. It's so important, and I think that kind of thing is definitely worth the money.
100%. Okay, we're going to do a quick fire round now. Your one piece of advice for first time mummies?
I would say trust your instincts. Don't Google too much, even though it's impossible. But you'll get loads of advice from everybody, and it can be really overwhelming, and in the end you've got to trust yourself. You know your baby better than anybody. You've known your baby for 9 months before it's even come into the world.
One thing you've learnt about yourself after becoming a mum?
Oh gosh, I've learnt that I don't really accept help very well, and that's something I'm now working on. Just because you're saying yes, please come and help me, doesn't mean you're weak or you failed. It's probably what's best for you and your baby. So I've learnt to be less stubborn and to take help more.
All the mums I've spoken to, there's a common theme of accept help.
Yes.
Because it will make you a stronger, happier mummy.
Don't try doing everything yourself. Even if it's just having someone come in and clean the house or cook you a meal, it will help no end.
Definitely. What's one thing you wish someone had warned you about before becoming a mum?
I would have to say the feeding. And I'd read that like breastfeeding can be really hard. It's not the most natural thing in the world for a lot of ladies, but what I hadn't prepared myself for was the emotional effect that has. And it's not just, oh, I'm really sad that didn't work as I wanted. It's like it hits your very being. It's like it's almost like your instincts have somehow failed you. That's how it feels. I mean, it's not a failure, but it feels like the whole like human history, something's like gone wrong when it comes to you and your baby. And I found that so hard to deal with, and to be honest, I'm still trying to deal with it. But then I wish I'd known that. I don't know, I just wish I'd known that it would be so tough mentally. But that in the end, the main thing is that your baby is happy, and you have to do what is good for your own health as well, because you're no use to your baby if you're constantly in tears worrying about feeding. You have to do what makes things easier to get your baby fed, for him to be happy or her to be happy, and also for your own mental health.
There's some amazing podcasts out there, people on Instagram, communities that really talk about this. I'll send you some links to ones I've listened to recently, and obviously I'm nowhere near that stage yet, but it makes me realise, okay, if this does happen to me, this is quite common. I'm not the only one that is facing this. Because I think it's probably more common than you realise. It
is, and I also, like, I was one of those people, I said, oh, I'll breastfeed if I can, and I was hoping that I would be able to. But what I wasn't prepared for was how it would feel to realise that I was struggling. And I tried so hard, to the point where I look back at the first few weeks now, and all I remember is visits to lactation consultants and midwives. I don't remember fun times relaxing at home. And you have all those little milestone cards of like, oh, my first day at home. Well, our first day at home was spent with me crying hysterically at the doctors because I was so engorged, he wouldn't feed, and I just felt awful, and he'd gone really yellow because he was jaundiced. And I'm like, oh, well, that was our first day at home. Like, that's not a happy memory.
But I think also there's so much pressure to have these beautiful, perfect moments, which you will have along the way. But even I'm feeling it now in pregnancy. I don't have one picture of me yet where I'm like looking pregnant and glowing. I haven't done that whole like, with the test and then the picture and then like a little thing and like, and there's all these like sort of pressures to get all these little, and you will get some, but I think we almost have to just let go of that, because it's like, okay, my day one might not have been perfect, but look at me now.
Exactly.
And isn't that amazing? Obviously, it's so easy for me to sit here and say that, because the emotional toll, especially when your hormones are going crazy. But I think there is a pressure on us to have these sort of like picture perfect moments and hit these milestones, isn't there?
And I think maybe some people do put these pictures up, but then maybe that's just a couple of seconds, and then they're like,
that's like anything on social media. It's a little highlight, and it's a moment in time. And I like it when people post a beautiful picture, but then they also, you swipe left and you see the picture straight after. And actually that's more like reality. But that's life, isn't it? Because life has texture. It's not always perfect.
I did put a picture up explaining that we were having a really hard time, and I had such an amazing response from people I'd not seen since school, or people just on Instagram just giving their support and saying, oh, I struggled as well, it can be really hard. And I think until you go through it, you have no idea how devastating it can be. And that could be with anything, not just breastfeeding. But then you realise how kind people are, and now I feel like I want to pay that back. I thought, why are people being so nice? And you kind of realise it's because they've all been in the same boat, and now I feel like anyone expecting, including you, I'm always like, if you need anything, just get in touch, because
I will definitely take you up on that.
It really, really helps, and don't be afraid to say like, I'm finding things hard.
Yeah.
Because it's got to happen, and if you've got support there in place, it makes it so much easier.
Yeah, and there's nothing worse than struggling and thinking you're on your own.
Yeah.
You know, it's bad enough when you're feeling like you're struggling.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a really, really important message, and keep being vulnerable and putting those honest posts out there. What's your favourite thing about being a mum?
Oh gosh, you know, it changes all the time. At the moment, it's the smiles. When he smiles at me and he does a big gummy grin and our eyes meet, I don't know, I feel like we're just connecting, like it's like souls are connecting together. It's amazing. As he starts to cry.
We're talking about you still, Dylan.
You gotta smile.
Okay, Rachel, your last question. What does motherhood mean to you in 3 words?
I would have to say it's being less selfish, and everything now is about him. Everything I do is for him in some way or another. And I've taken a backseat for my own. But it's not taking a backseat because I get so much enjoyment out of doing things for him, and it's just the new way of life. And, you know, I would never, ever want to go back to how it was before. Even though I had more freedom, I was able to kind of do what I wanted, I had my own time. Being with him now is just like, I can't think of any better way to spend my time, to be honest. Like, there's down moments, of course, but just, I feel like we're just best buddies and we're out there and we're taking on the world together now.
And he has been an angel during this. He
He's
really has.
Smiling again now. Yay!
Rachel, thank you so much. I'm going to
thank
put
you.
all your details in the show notes, so your website for Chasing Zest, your Instagram. I'll also put a link to Optimal Fitness as well, and mention the lovely trainer's name, so that people can find her. And thank you so much for sharing your experience. It's really refreshing to hear about a really positive, smooth, straightforward birth, because there's a lot of horror stories out there, and not to take anything away from ladies that have those experiences, but it's also nice, especially as a mum to be, to hear really positive stories.
And I have to say, like, I had an amazing birth and pregnancy, and then my struggles kind of came after, whereas I know people have had it the other way around. They've had quite a traumatic birth, but then the baby has latched straight away. They've had an amazing breastfeeding journey. So just because one doesn't go the way you would hope doesn't mean that that's it. It's like, it's just such a journey that there's so many twists and turns along the way, and you've really just got to enjoy every single moment. Well, not every moment, but you know, just to be grateful for how things are. And just because something maybe doesn't go as you want doesn't mean the rest of your whole motherhood journey is going to be that way.
Oh, well, thank you so much, and thank you, baby Dylan.
Yay!
Thank you.
Thank you once again to Rachael for sharing her beautiful birth experience with Life School. You can find links to Rachael's social pages and website in the show notes below. If you'd like to find out who my guests will be on the next episode of Bumps and Babies, please do follow us on Instagram at LifeSchoolME, where you can keep up to date with all our news and find information on all our amazing guests. And finally, I would be so grateful if you could show some love and please rate, review, and subscribe to Life School ME, the podcast, to help us reach and hopefully inspire more listeners. Thank you for listening to Life School. Conversations to inspire action.